Hey everybody, this is Christopher Kitchens. This is my citation presentation. All right, so the case I chose is Lincoln County v. Crowell. It was decided on November 18th, 1985. It went all the way to the Tennessee Supreme Court, and it established exemptions for Tennessee state gerrymandering law, and it provided a burden of proof in those cases. So this is the case. This is how it looks fully cited. So let's break down the elements of this citation. So first we have the parties or the case title. That's what's underlined here and in red. And then we see that it was recorded in the Southwestern Reporters. It was the second edition of those reporters. That's what this means. That it's in volume 701. So that's the actual physical book that it's located in is number 701, and then it's on page 60, or it begins on page 602 of that volume. So we see here that it went to the Tennessee Supreme Court. Obviously, when you have, we all know when you have just the state abbreviation there, it means that it went to the highest court in that jurisdiction. And then it was decided in the year 1985. So this is how you put all these elements together into a full citation. Now, how do you find these elements? When you're actually looking at the case, if you were to pull it up on the Westlaw website. So here you have the parties. You have Lincoln County versus Gentry Crowell, so Lincoln County v. Crowell. This is where you find the reporter information. So obviously, volume 701 of the Southwestern Reporter, second edition, and page 602. So that's all there. We see here that it went to the Tennessee Supreme Court. Oh, whoops. And then here's where we find the year in which it was decided. So there are all of your elements. Now, looking at some case background, what we're going to do is we're going to look into how to search for this case in Westlaw, or how to do a search that would generate this case in Westlaw. So it's a good thing. I think it is a good thing to start a search with a fully conceptualizing your issue, so you can kind of think of, okay, what would be what words would typically be used to summarize this sort of case. Or that would be found in this sort of case. The case I chose is, like I said, is about gerrymandering. So just if you were to say you have a hypothetical gerrymandering case, and you want to find, who the burden of proof is on, and what is needed. And what burden of proof exists to prove a case of gerrymandering, you would want to look for the case that we're citing, and this is how you would look for that sort of case. So searching for the case. Let's say you want to see how the courts interpreted state constitution when it comes to drawing district lines. So a good query we could use here is this one we have lined out. Now, obviously, we see that there are a lot. It's not just written out in plain English. There are a lot of symbols and connectors here. So what do all these mean? So first of all, let's start with the exclamation points. So these are extenders. They basically take this base word and they draw it out. So instead of constitution, this could be constitutional. Instead of line here, this could be lines or lined. So we have, so basically they take a word and they extend it out for any possible different alternative variation of it. So then we have this and connector. So that means that it has to have constitution or some variation of that and draw. or drew. We're going to get into the variations here in a second. So basically, it's not one or the other. This makes it a and. Must have both. And then we have the star, which means basically replaces a vowel to create more variety in the words. So instead of draw, it could be drew. Because it has this exclamation point connector, it could be drawn or drawed or drawn, drawer. And then next you have this symbol, which basically means, and you can put any number here, it basically means that the way that I have it is that you will have line or some variation of it within 15 words of draw or drew and some variation of it. So next we have this symbol, which means that you'll have line or some variation of it within the same sentence. That's what this means, within the same sentence as district. So looking at how this would apply into our case, would this generate would the results of this search generate our case? So first of all, if we're starting with the word Constitution, yes, the word Constitution or some variation of that word are mentioned 13 times within the case, and the case speaks, as far as subject matter, it speaks extensively on our subject matter and how our subject matter relates to the Tennessee State Constitution. As far as the rest of it, now, why don't I have these two together? Because they don't really have to be. Constitution with the and connector doesn't have to be necessarily proximal to the rest of this here. It just has to be within the same case. But with these other connectors, we have them put into here in a way that makes them have to be close. Draw has to be within 15 words of line. Line has to be within the same sentence as district. So let's look at how it played out. So we do have a variation of draw. And this is pretty close onto the subject matter that we're looking for. I'm just going to start with here. Persuades us that it would be improper to set aside individual district lines on the ground that they may theoretically might have been drawn more perfectly in the absence of any proof whatever of bad faith or improper motive. So basically, we do see that draw is within 15 words of, our district is within 15 words, is within the same sentence as drawn, or as drawn. And then these are, it's within the same sentence as drawn. And line is within 15 words of district. So, or within the same sentence as district. So why did I put, so obviously, we see that we didn't need that connector that said it's within the same sentence because they're right next to each other. I could have really used quotation marks, which we'll get into here in a minute. But, so why did I do this? Because we're not looking at this in hindsight. We're looking at this from what any likely variation would have been. So it could have been district, set aside individual district lines on the ground that they may have theory. The lines of a district, or there could have been several words in between, or lines of the district. So you could have had multiple words in between. So it's good to just say, okay, they'll be in the same sentence. And it will help you from having a lot of false negatives in your search. Now let's say that we're going to go with a more direct approach. We want to look directly into proof in what is the burden of proof in a gerrymandering case. So here would be a good query for that. This one here, gerrymandering, and within the same paragraph of proof, proved, or burden of proof. So let's look at what the symbols mean here. So right here we see gerrymandering needs to be within the same paragraph of one of these three words, any one of the three. What the parentheses mean is that they give us an ability to say, okay, it's one of these. It doesn't have to be all of them, but one of these has to be present within in the same paragraph as gerrymandering. And then we have the quotation marks. So that basically says, okay, we're not looking for any of these words as individuals. We're looking for all three of these words as a phrase. So we don't want these floating around as individuals, because then they're going to bring us back results, which are those individual words. We don't just want an individual word burden coming around. We want burden accompanied with the word proof. We want this phrase. Now, why did I choose? Okay, we already have proof. So realistically, something that had burden of proof would have already been generated because the word proof is here. So why did I do this? This is really for more utilitarian, because when something pops up that has a burden of proof in there, because we've put the phrase in quotation marks, we are going to be able to pick out that specific phrase because it's going to be highlighted when we pull up the search. So it's really just more to help you. Ultimately, it would be ideal if the phrase burden of proof came up, because that's really the exact phrase that we're looking for. But it's not what we got, because we had something that is basically the same concept. So we are of the opinion, this is the text of the case, we are of the opinion that the proof is insufficient in this case to warrant the action taken by the Chancellor. Appellees have offered no evidence to demonstrate bad faith by the General Assembly or to establish deliberate gerrymandering. So you see that you have gerrymandering, and it is within the same paragraph of one of these three words. So our search was successful. Also, this gave us the subject matter we wanted. It gave us it gave us the answer that we wanted. We found a burden of proof that we needed to establish for a gerrymandering case, that we needed to demonstrate a bad faith redrawing of the lines by the General Assembly. So overall successful. In both of these cases, or both of these queries, would have brought our case up to the top of the list. It would have been the first case on the list. So they got us exactly what we wanted. Well, thank you for listening to my presentation. Any feedback that you have, just let me know, and I look forward to hearing all of your speeches, or all of your presentations as well. Thank you.